to stop talking about Jesus because it's really not becoming of you. And in fact, it was an emotional trying time because when I went to church and found my church, which is Union Church, which is actually a sister church to this church, believe it or not. This is 29 years ago. We went there and I decided I really wanted to get baptized. And so my mom said, oh no, you cannot get baptized again because you've been already baptized. You were baptized at birth. And I was like, yeah, but this is my decision. This is my life. I want to make that commitment. And so it was really important to me for that time period moving forward. And that was the sort of the beginning of my journey as a Christian, to really just hold that moment. And I'll never forget Tommy Joe at that time period. We were during a Bible study. He gave me this quote along with this Bible. This Bible is symbolic because this is the year I accepted the Lord, when I got this Bible. And in the back of the Bible, it has a quote that I wrote from him, and it's still there. Yeah. And it says, if salvation or eternal life is the only thing that I buy into life, is it really enough for me as a Christian to live my whole Christian life that way? Just to be saved? Is it enough? And what I ponder 29 years later is that very question. Is it enough for me to know that I'm saved, that I could just live the rest of my life just that way? Or do I need to do something more and beyond what I'm doing? And so, so this is how the connection goes. My dad, who was an amazing designer, he was the most famous designer I know. He designed a lot of the department stores that you know today. Broadway's Macy's, Buffum's, I. Magnum. In Japan, Isetan, Daimaru, Marui Mai. He designed the first Singapore airport. I mean, like, my dad was mega famous as an architect. And a lot of people didn't know that, but he's in the Who's Who book. But the most famous thing that he's really designed, which most people don't know, is the Pontiac Firebird. He was part of that design team working under Harley Earl, and he was developing and designing the prototype. And I went back to those old black and white little videos, and I found it on YouTube. I found a little snippet, and I found my dad on the drawing table designing a car, and you could tell it's him because he's the only Nihonjin in the entire group, so it's pretty obvious. But the important thing to take away is, you know, I love to live my life as a Christian, and then yet my dad, who became this famous designer, I followed his footsteps and I wanted to become a designer too, and yet I was struggling with what that connection was of being a designer and living my life as a Christian. I just didn't understand how those two coincided. And in 1996, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I woke Lynn up and I said, God spoke to me for the first time I've ever heard an audible voice to me that we need to move, and we're moving to San Francisco. And we did. In 1996, we made that move, and it truly was the first time. I've heard God speak to me twice. That was the first time. And when we moved up here, we had, you know, nobody, no friends or anybody, so it was a pretty big, bold move. But one of the things that I needed to do was really separate myself from my mom, and really, because I really just needed to be myself and grow as myself as a Christian. But then the connection was like, what about this design part? So most people think of design as, well, when you're designing cars, you're designing the beautiful cars. When you're designing a department store, you're designing, you know, these beautiful apparel and buildings that you walk into. But my dad actually was studying people. He was studying people and what they wanted, what they needed, what they were looking for. And it occurred to me that design really is something much more bigger than I had realized. And so this journey of my life as a designer wasn't really more about designing things per se that you see, but it's really about designing things that you don't see. And I learned this pretty strong when I read the Bible and realized, basically God designed us. Did he design the outside of you? Yes, he did. I mean, that's the physical manifestations of who we are. But he designed all of us. He designed the parts that you don't see. He designed how we feel. And just that ability to feel that emotional connection to people was something I feel God gave me this component of really empathizing and understanding where people were coming from. And to this day, I work in a field that really focuses on people and how they connect. A lot of it is digital, but it's really about how they connect with each other. And then I just realized that suddenly the things that God gave me and the things that he really designed about me was something that I could actually bring towards the world and really make that part of my Christian walk in life. It was really something that I could actually use, and it's not something that is just a facade. It's not artificial. So I'm here today just to tell you that it's a long journey to take, but to finally realize, as I'm sitting out in the pews, when I moved up here, I belonged to the Rock for the longest time, which was the East Bay Christian Fellowship out in Danville. And I sat there in the church for 20-something years, and not realizing that I wasn't really part of anything, and I wasn't really doing anything more than just being a Christian who believed in my own salvation. But one day, Naomi comes over and asks me to come to this church. Little did I know that time period would be the time period for this church to go through its own transition, to have somebody like Pastor Maddie become part of this church and become this amazing leader for this church. I wasn't really open to that. I really was more into this bigger mega church that was about giving me something, about making me feel something. And coming to a small church and not knowing what I was going to do really made me think that I have a really different purpose here. And so I guess today I just wanted to let you know that I feel like it's no coincidence that I'm here to be with you all. I really feel like it's part of my journey to really be here and serve you. So that's my testimony.